I found a great discussion post in the Black Ladies subreddit. She says, African daughters are born to serve. Discuss. Now, I do know and recognize in many cultures, daughters in general are born to serve. They literally birth daughters to be servants. So I thought that this would be a great discussion post this Monday morning, or whichever day you happen to be watching this video. Okay, so she says, an older British Caribbean social worker once said this to me, not out of malice, but an observation she made through her work. She was saying that she sees more of an expectation amongst women of African descent to cater to the needs of family members around them before themselves, compared to Black women of Caribbean descent. She added that daughters are expected to serve their parents and will get their turn once their children can start looking after them. She found this observation interesting because the women she comes across are mostly British but of African descent. So this might be a cultural expectation. Thoughts? Have you seen this play out? Is this your story? How are you expected to serve? And if you started pushing back to no longer be the servant, how is this working for you? Okay, so I wanted to get into the comments because OMG, it's Sue, had some things to say. So she says, she is 1000% correct. That's why most of us end up struggling with people pleasing and not meeting people's expectations of us. It's a mess to unlearn all of that. And the OP says, what have you put in place practically to not be the servant anymore? And then OMG, it's Sue says, girl, it's a lot, but here go a few tips. And she created bullet points for us this morning. So grab a pencil and paper. And like I said, I know that they're talking about African daughters and Caribbean daughters, but we know that this applies to daughters in general because we have seen this play out on our social media platform in our community right here. She says, focus on your mental state first. I've learned that everything starts with your mindset or paradigm, and this needs to shift. If you're in the right mental space, wanting change, everything else will follow. Confidence is key. You need to be confident that your decisions are right for you. I found that reassurance from others can help, but that confidence needs to come from within because even if someone supports you, especially if they're African, they might not always agree with how you handle things. Reevaluate your self-worth. I realized I was conditioned to seek validation based on the service I provided to others. It wasn't my fault, but it's where I was praised. I had to sit with myself and figure out how I value myself beyond what I do for others. This part is tough, but it's so important. Change your internal dialogue. My internal dialogues were very self-deprecating. I didn't stop the thoughts as they happened, but instead changed how I ended them. I would ask myself, is this what I'd say to a dear friend if I were advising her? This shift helped me become kinder to myself over time. Stop anticipating others' needs. I used to carry the mental load for others. For example, when my mom would say, did you check the thing? I'd automatically list out all the possible things until I got it right. Then answer. I realized I needed to stop doing this. Others need to express themselves fully like anyone else in my life does. And this is hard because you are attuned to them and you know how they ask for help. Stop. They need to use their words. Accept that relationships will change. One of the hardest things for me was realizing that this journey would forever change some of my relationships. They will never be the same again, and I had to accept that and mourn that. If you're not okay with that, you might not be ready for this change. I want to pause right here and say to the younger ladies, if you have not created relationships yet that are based on you giving, nip that in the bud right now because people pleasing gets harder when you decide to stop because they are so used to you being the one that would give. And then once you turn that spigot off, then they were like, they realize that the relationship has changed and they might leave you. They might leave you be. And this is relationships of all kinds. This next one is going to be hard for many women. Learn to say no and stick to it. Saying no and sticking to it are two different things. I've had people be stunned or try to bulldoze through my no. That's when standing firm becomes crucial. Some may even create situations where saying no is harder, but you need to push through. The discomfort you feel is because you were conditioned to feel guilty when you are not in service, not of service. You're not wrong. Remind yourself of that. Trust me, the discomfort fades as you stand up for yourself more. We are conditioned to not have boundaries. We literally are. So we have got to unlearn that, and you have got to practice it over and over to get comfortable in that situation. Reconnect with your personal agency. I stopped asking my family for opinions or advice and started making decisions for myself. I had a mantra. Even if the worst happens, I'm strong enough to recover. It helped me regain my trust in my own choices. Explore resources that help. Books and podcasts were incredibly helpful for me at every stage of this process. If you like recommendations, I'd be happy to share what worked for me. She hadn't gotten to this. This post was really, really early, so she hadn't listed any podcasts or books. Be kind to yourself. Growth is hard, and if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. You'll slip up, revert to old habits, or struggle to set boundaries, especially with people who are used to the old version of you. But it's worth it for the peace and self assurance that comes later. Also, I'm now 34. I started the journey to stop my people pleasing ways during my 30s. It takes a long time, especially without a therapist. You are welcome to DM me anytime. I live in London and I'm West African. This part right here, where she says, reconnect with your personal agency, sometimes it means connect with your personal agency because sometimes people didn't actually have it, especially if you were conditioned early on to be a people pleaser. This is where you have got to figure out what makes you, you, your values, what you really want to do, what you want to accomplish. Once you figure that out, it's easier to take a step back and try to listen to yourself first and seek validation for yourself before looking for outside motivation and head pats and compliments. You need to learn that from yourself from within. That way, you're not always looking for head pats from other people. A few years ago, I discovered this woman, Nedra Tawwab, a therapist. She has some books on boundaries that are amazing. The first book I found of hers, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. This was a great book, easy to read. And the second book I read of hers was Drama Free. So, this is how to deal with family relationships specifically. So, I think that these two books would be great in learning how to create some boundaries for yourself. So, for a few more of the comments that were on the post, OK Ambassador says, yeah, this is totally 99% of my community. Girl from that tribe says, she is, in fact, very correct. Cinnamon Foodie says, yes, based on my observation and lived experiences, African daughters are raised to take care of everyone and put themselves dead last, whether it's North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. The expectation is that girls take care of everyone. And in fact, the girl child is wanted because they are expected to take care of their parents. That Tangri Orca says, what's that phrase about wanting sons but daughters for when they start aging because daughters stay close to home? I've had this sentiment mentioned to me amongst my Ghanaian and Nigerian aunties and uncles. The Leo Ego says, Haitian, but very true AF. My brother is nowhere to be seen, but the rest of us, 5 girls, are keeping the family running and supporting our mom. Uh, this person says, so true, so depressing. Currently going through the gut wrenching guilt of trying to assert my right to be my own person. I feel like I'm tearing the family apart because I don't want to assume my role as custodian of everyone's issues without complaining. It's really challenging and sad that women wanting to be autonomous humans is seen like something disrespectful to other people. But we've got to get to that point and be okay with asserting that you want to run your life how you want to. You have your own goals and values and beliefs. So we're going to work on that today. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.